I saw what they're planning to do. They're like locusts. They're moving from planet to planet, their whole civilization. After they've consumed every natural resource, they move on. And we're next.
The summer blockbuster is something we've talked about quite a bit. During Adventure Month, a few months back, we began to trace the origins. Beginning with Jaws in 1975, big-budget, high-concept films generally took the summer by storm. Steven Spielberg was the first master of the summer blockbuster, but many other directors soon followed. One of them was Roland Emmerich, who is known as a master of the disaster film. Disaster films are a great way to do high-concept filmmaking. High-concept films usually have a simple premise, meant to be easy for audiences to understand. Often it takes the form of a question, such as Jurassic Park's "What if we could clone dinosaurs?"
Oh, what's so great about Discovery? It's a violent, penetrative act that scars what explores what you call discovery. I call the rape of the natural world.
3 years after Jurassic Park, Roland Emmerich had his own high-concept summer blockbuster starring Jeff Goldblum, Independence Day.
I believe that there's life, another life form out there in the universe, but I always doubted that they come visiting us because I always think we're not that special. What do they care about us? We're hitting each other constantly, we're killing each other, we kind of make this planet dirtier and dirtier every year. Why should they come to us? Probably kind of give us a warning, like parents saying, stop that.
The high concept premise is incredibly simple, and Emmerich came up with it while promoting Stargate.
Let's say that you wanted to coordinate with spaceships on different sides of the Earth. You couldn't send a direct signal, right?
You're talking about line of sight.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. However, the Earth prevents it. You'd need satellites to relay that signal in order to reach each ship. Well, I found a signal hidden inside our own satellite system.
What if you woke up one day to 15-mile-wide spaceships over every city? Fox greenlit the project with a $75 million budget. The cast is huge. Jeff Goldblum, Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Randy Quaid, Vivica Fox, Robert Loggia, and Judd Hirsch, among others. The film set special effects records, 3,000 plus special effects shots, usually done on set and in camera, and often with pyrotechnics.
Because Roland said, oh, no, there's this great new technology that can just paint the wire out. Like, what? You can go in and just paint right on the film? How is this magic possible? So we, they set up some cameras, some high-speed cameras, and, again, this was still in the model shop. We're doing the test. We just had very thin cable or monofilament and just flipped these cars right at the camera.
Twice as many miniatures were built than for any previous film. Models of the White House, spaceships, city streets, landmarks for the aliens to destroy.
One of the really neat miniatures that I have worked on was the first aircraft that you see in the movie, which was the AWACS. Chris Simmons did some electrical work on that and helped put the detail. I designed and built the rotodome that you see slowly rotating. And to get the speed right, Mike Joyce had this geared reduction motor that's made in Austria for model trains. So it was really slow, but it was good. Also groundbreaking was the huge marketing campaign. The first ad premiered during Super Bowl 30 and cost $1.3 million. A deal with Apple called The Power to Save the World had Jeff Goldblum using a PowerBook 5300 laptop.
The clock is ticking.
You better hope you got the right computer.
Taglines for the teasers included, "Don't make plans this August," and "We've always believed we weren't alone. On July 4th, we'll wish we were." It debuted on July 2nd when the movie begins chronologically, and it became the highest grossing film of 1996. Joining in the tradition of the marketing, since this July 4th is a Tuesday, we thought we'd talk about Independence Day on Independence Day.
Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July, and you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, host of Protonic Reversal, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Matt Strackbein, aka The Letterhack. You can find his art at The Letterhack on Twitter or Friends of Strackbein on Instagram. I, of course, am your host, who has decided to join the side of the aliens, Forrest Miller. Let's kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
Movie night collaborators, more like it. Am I right?
Good one.
We started half an hour late because I had to make sure with my new alien, co-producers on the show, right? Because they do it from the ships actually that are like above us, like the 15-mile ships. Yeah. So I had to make sure with my new co-producers, at the Alien Network that we could do this. They finally said yes. There's a few things that I'm gonna have to blank out. If you guys say anything too negative about the aliens, I'm gonna have to cut off your mics.
Yeah, you
fair enough.
hijacked those satellites for a reason.
That's fair.
They're also our new sponsors. Aliens.
Finally.
They're aliens. They're coming for us.
Aliens. They gave me money.
If you use the promo code Earth Gone. Now on the Alien website, you can save 15 to 20%, depending on how they feel about your specimen, how much they think you might collaborate, when the bulk of humanity is gone, and your resources, right? They want your resources. You can actually, it's kind of like one of those pawn shops. You can sell them your resources if you really want to, the minerals in your body, just really, any of that.
Can I just say again, and it's off topic, sort of, that intro song. Best in the business.
You can say it as many times as you want.
No one can touch that.
We're actually getting rid of the intro song though, and now it's an Alien approved one.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. It's all these alien instruments.
Right.
Yeah, it's Trilobian opera. It's wild.
Like what's the Fifth Element, right?
Yeah. Yeah. With the third whatchamacallits? I forgot. Hey, it's Kristina.
Well, she could watch. She just can't. They didn't like the thing she was saying about aliens online a few days ago.
They kicked her off the show. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Very strict. Strict but fair.
Keep his wife's name out of your motherfucking mouth.
Yeah, that's good.
It's on rewatch. And I've seen this movie a lot, and this is a movie. Independence Day, I feel like, is sort of perpetually on cable. So I feel like I've seen bits and pieces of it at least 40 times.
And at least always this time of year.
Well, certainly, yeah. But it's just one of those ones. On a full rewatch, which I definitely, when I watch things for this show, I approach it differently, just watching it for the heck of it. Kind of a subversive conservationalist message here. Because if you think about the fact that the aliens are like coming to these planets to strip mine them, right, and like move on, it's sort of like very much. There's a lot of things that are beating you over the head in this movie, and that's part of the appeal, frankly. But that is not one of them. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting if you think about it. I think about like this late '90s, like what was going on around then. Not the least of which is like, this is evergreen. I feel like when the White House gets destroyed, everyone cheered in the movie theater.
Yeah.
It's also pro-military but anti-CIA, which I appreciated a lot, right? Like the CIA Defense Department guy is like this sniveling little fucking government bureaucrat, and like all the military guys, including my favorite Robert Loggia, that guy, they're all heroic. And I do
R.I.P.
appreciate that
King.
about it, right? Like the rank and file military commanders and the generals are all like, you know what, we like these guys. Those are the most, those are the people that are going to be watching the movie too. And they're like, but we're gonna create some conflict between that and the CIA that's been hiding Area 51.
Who's wrong on almost everything. Also,
Yeah.
that's another thing to notice is all of his instincts are wrong. He's the first one to, like, every time there's a good plan, he's the first one to start trash talking and be critical of it. And contrast that with the other big blockbuster guy, especially around this time, Michael Bay, right? Which is just like open mouth fellation of the of the military industrial complex.
This
Even in
was the one, though,
Transformers,
right?
which unfortunately I watched, it was like there was like a rah go militaries. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why is this in here? This is a movie about fighting robots. Get back to the good stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
you know
if
what's
you
even
wanna
weirder
do-
is that Transformers movie is set in the same universe as the Friday the 13th reboot. Because one of the
What?
characters
Really?
that's in that movie is in Friday the 13th.
Oh, that's weird. I just think if you're going to do pro-military stuff in the Transformers, it's got to be a G.I. Joe crossover. Otherwise, just back
Lost
off.
opportunity, right?
That's silly, yeah.
They're finally
You
getting to
gotta-
it, by the way.
I mean, at some point you got to bring Barbie into it too. With the new.
I don't
thing.
know if that's. I wouldn't go that far. But
An all toy universe. Like
Barbie
movie.
Friday the 13th, I'm into.
I want
but,
Adventures Endgame, but with only toys, right? Like it's all
So-
the most prominent toys, and they all have to fight each other in like the biggest toy crossover of all time.
So who-
I'd watch the shit out of that. They're also making a Hot Wheels movie.
Oh yeah.
The only good Transformers movie is the animated one
I'm
that came
sure.
out a few years before I was born. Yo,
That was so good.
I was a kid when that came out. That was great, but traumatizing. Where it's just like, hey, we're gonna kill off like a good quarter of the cast. I'm like, what? That's
Well, so-
so
impossible.
into that.
Yeah,
Speaking of-
it was great. That's a great film.
Speaking of kids, like who,
touch.
like three of us saw this in the theater.
Yeah.
Forrest in the crib.
He was
did
busy being a
not
baby.
see it. Like the literal crib, right?
Yeah.
But
It's like,
Yeah,
what'd you
not
think
like
of the
at,
movie?
not at his
Oh,
comfortable
what's that
house that
smell?
was well decorated. The actual crib, but yeah.
this was, like,
I
six
wasn't
of my
living
friends
in
and
a,
I.
I was
It was
living
great.
in
We
a
like
comfortable house at the time. I was living in an apartment in Brooklyn when I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cool. But this was like a big deal for us. This was like we went, like a bunch of us went to the theater like this is gonna be great, and then when we left, we were like that was great.
It was culturally
just
ubiquitous
rare.
too. It was completely impossible to escape. There were tie-ins, and people think about this stuff now, and it's just the way it is with these big blockbusters. There's a tie-in with McDonald's and with this and with that and the other thing, right? But like this was just 360 marketing, I think they call it now, like to like it never unparalleled levels because it really hadn't been done in that way before. The Coke tie-ins is probably the most egregious ones where it's like, all right, yeah, brought to you by Coke. We get it. But yeah, like Apple is in there. But I mean, it was everywhere. And again, the marketing on it, what is it, like? Don't make plans this August.
Yeah,
Kind of amazing because you're
Whatever.
like, what? Why? What is this? what's gonna happen? Like it perfectly was in the zeitgeist at the time, which is just like the type of marketing for big blockbuster movies was very much, hey, this is what this is going to be. Here's what the thing looks like that this movie is centered around. And then it was just this sort of like kind of mysterious, like, well, I guess it's aliens. I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening here. And it came out right around the same time as like everybody was so tired of I was about to say it, hearing about Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton's dick and whether he, what exactly transpired with which blowjob when. Everybody was so tired of hearing about it, which goes back to what I was saying, that when everybody was cheering when the White House got blown up with that scene,
that's
that
why,
had a lot to do with it. That's where MoveOn.org came from. It was a move on from the impeachment. It was like censure and move on.
Yeah, I think that was a little after this movie because this was during the re-election in '96.
Snap correction. Nobody gives a shit, Andy. Literally, no one cares, and all my points are still valid. But okay, sure.
But it was-
just,
one
just
of the-
to,
one
just
of
to
the
kind
more-
of feed into the zeitgeist. Like people, like that election was everywhere. I remember like being completely tuned out of politics at the time, which you could be back then whenever you were 19.
Yeah.
It was possible, yeah. And it was still like
What was the Bob Dole? It was the Bob Dole election, right? Like where like Clinton had successfully out Bob Dole, and Bob Dole didn't like the Clinton. Bob Dole out Bob Doled him.
And then Bob Dole fell off the stage.
It happens.
But the first place that they one of the first places they went and actually screened this, because of course the Clintons did this. They had the entire cast come screen this at the White House with them.
I
That
didn't
was
know
like
that.
yeah. So that was like one of the famous things. Right, like a couple weeks after this movie came out, they were doing like all the press or whatever, and they put them on a jet plane, like the entire cast. They're like, "Oh, there's a plane ready for you," and they took them to the White House to watch it with the Clintons.
So were they offended by the White House getting blown up, and they're like, "Oh no, we got to get the people back on our side, bring the cast." Is that?
I mean,
I think they just like movies.
Strategy.
Yeah,
I think they just like movies.
I think they like movies and they hate lines. They hate like the idea that you'd have to like wait to go see something. So they're like,
they gotta
You know what? I love movies
you
that
know?
hate lines too. So that's very relatable.
Yeah.
That's one of the most relatable things I've ever heard about the Clintons.
I get
I
that.
would run for
Jesus.
president just to have that theater in my house.
me as president,
Hey, you
they'd
need
be
to
like,
sign this bill. No, man, I gotta watch it.
I'm too busy watching Wolf Warrior 2.
me as president, they'd be like, he hasn't passed a single policy, but damn, he sure has watched a lot of movies.
Yeah, exactly.
He's kept the movie podcast going. As
It's
president.
crazy. Nobody expected him to keep the movie podcast going when he was elected, but he sure did. Strangely enough, the listenership is about the same.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch Stargate?
Some diehard chatters, and that's really it. You'd think the president would have like a blossoming.
You think it would have increased the audience a little more, but turns out Sam Cedar's the only thing that moved the needle on that show. It's weird.
I wonder how many of us saw Stargate in the theater before this. Anybody?
I did not.
I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on
I saw it on
HBO
video.
or something.
See, that's
or
the thing. I was
video.
watching everything in the theater at this point. This was like hardcore dating years for me.
I was too, but for some reason Stargate I didn't see.
Yeah, I don't think like the marketing was that good on it. Like it kind of came and went.
Yeah. No, you're right. But I thought
Because
it was good. I thought it was hardcore
I saw
sci-fi.
Universal Soldier in the theater, and I'll never forget that because
It was 94. So I didn't. Here's the thing. I didn't have any money. 94. I moved out and I was like working a minimum wage job at Tower Records, and I had no money for movies at that time. So that's why I didn't see it in the theater.
But I remember looking forward to this because of Stargate. So somehow I made that connection without the internet that this was the same director, which was not easy to do back then if it wasn't like Spielberg or something.
Well, he interestingly came up with the idea to make Independence Day on the circuit doing Stargate. He was talking to a reporter that was like, talking to him about making Stargate. And he's like, yeah, well, I've always wanted to do a movie, like what if there were 15-foot aliens that just came down? And he like pitched the movie to a reporter, not like without thinking about it. And afterwards,
That's
his
awesome.
his co-producer was like, I think you've just come up with the idea for another movie. And then, within like 2 weeks, they pitched it to Fox.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting because around this time, there really weren't a lot of movies like this. There were big blockbusters, and there actually arguably some more science fiction related blockbusters than people give it credit for. But like this specific kind of movie, there wasn't a lot of it happening around then. They had existed in the past, for sure. But it was way before. I mean, there was that Ill-Advised War of the Worlds remake, like that they made later on. Like a lot of ones kind of followed this, but like there hadn't been a big like aliens invading movie in a long time. If there were aliens, it was like Alien or Aliens, where it happened in some far off area in the far off future, in some other galaxy, blah blah blah. It wasn't like grounded in such a way that you saw hilariously the Empire State Building, not the World Trade Center. Get exploded, like that level of grounding where like, oh, this is meant to make you think of like what would happen here and how people would react to it. Like Harvey Firestein's character. I gotta call my brother. I gotta call my lawyer. Actually, forget about my lawyer, like, which any movie with Harvey Firestein, I'm usually like, that's great. Harvey Firestein's in there. Awesome.
Yeah. It's like, he could take a bad movie and just, make it.
It's the guy doing the thing. That's great.
I like that he kind of gets lost in the fray of this movie. You know what I mean? Like it's good enough, and the cast is big enough and doing enough. Which this is like 10 movies at the same. Like
there's so many.
Yeah.
There are so many characters and so many plot lines. And the first big explosion, is like 51 minutes into this movie.
And then they kill off like half the people you've been following.
Yeah,
and they give you just enough for each of the characters to make you like them. Like, Harvey Firestein with his old like, I gotta call my mother, I gotta call my lawyer, forget my lawyer. That bit. They got the stripper.
Oh, the one I just did? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the stripper. The strip, just in case people forgot.
Just in case people only tuned in 3 seconds ago. Like, yeah,
Do
like
it
they give
again
you
in 3 seconds.
The stripper that
who made the
wants
sign for the
Elvis to
aliens
return. That is like, oh, like she joins
I
I hope they bring
Elvis.
Elvis back.
yeah. Well, yeah, like all the alien fans, yeah.
The best thing about the whole movie, of course, we cannot sleep on this for too long because we're 20 minutes in, we haven't brought it up. The newscast that actually says, "Don't shoot at the UFOs."
Oh, with the like, it has like the gun and the UFO. Amazing,
Yes.
fantastic. Yeah, that's deeply hilarious.
Yes.
But getting back to the thing of there being so many characters, so many plot lines, it's like you get a whole season of like Lost or something. You know what I mean? Where you're like, oh my God, there's all these people, like all this stuff's going on. Yeah, and then like, but the way it works is that like when you do kind of like lose a bunch of them, you actually do care, even though you're like, look, I thought this was about like UFOs. Like what's happening here? Like what kind of film am I watching? And that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, Stevie. But yes, absolutely. And I think that it's kind of a balancing act because it is exciting because you get like the build up, like you get. Look, Jeff Goldblum is great in this. Jeff Goldblum is always great, but when he gets like the readout of like the binary and like and like he's like thinks he's discovered something, everyone else is like watching the news and stuff like that. Little things are really like, well, what does this matter? Who cares? And it's like, oh, that is like literally the key to like this entire thing. Like it doesn't bop you over the head with a sledgehammer, which is crazy because this is one of the least subtle movies ever. But there are things within it that like, no, that was very important, and it's like okay. Mr. Quaid, right? Like you're just like, who's this drunk dick? Like what's this? What is he fitting in this? Is a different movie? What are we watching? Like he's a bad father. He's dusting the wrong fields, this and that. But it manages to pull it together in a way that like, oh, okay, that's obvious. And it seems obvious after it happens, but when you actually are watching it, you're like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, I guess he can fly. Sure. Like it makes sense within it. Like it's very almost over-scripted. Like you could have dispensed with at least a third of the characters and it really wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. Like I love Mary McDonnell. What is she doing in this movie that like she needs to be there? No.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a saga.
She dies.
So there's all these players and they all have backstories and they're all like taking their moment in the spotlight, right? It's like a big epic saga, and then it's like, okay, now it's an alien.
And they're
movie,
likable
right?
too.
Even
Harry
from the
Connick
very
Jr.
first, even from the very first part of it, right? Like the Asian guy that's working that discovers the aliens in the beginning of it, and he's like working at the base. He comes back later when Jeff Goldblum was trying to figure it out. He's still at the thing, pacing around in Area 51 when Jeff Goldblum's trying to figure out how to make the spaceship go. Like that character's there again. Like there's and
that just would not happen now. Like if someone's making a big like Ryan Johnson gets like grief for like having too many characters and having to have too much going on and having too much like plot that like maybe like people think is not relevant to it. But like that was pretty common, and we've been trained in movie making now. Like, oh no, you have your one character you care about. Maybe you got the foil, you've got the sidekick, you've got like like whatever. These like these specific archetypes. But like, oh yeah, you got to keep it to about under 5 characters, otherwise you're going to lose the audience. There was nobody thinking about that in this movie at all. They never at one point, we're going to lose the audience. No, they're like, no, we've got the audience. We got this.
Well, I think one big part of it is that like they're trying to appeal to as many people as possible, and it's interesting because you can do that on a bunch of different levels, right? Like you can create like very emotional situations that everyone's like, oh, this definitely resonates with me. I think at this point they've realized that like you don't even really need to do that, right? Like the characters don't need to be, they just need to have a relatable sense of humor or something. But in this, it feels like they're creating all these characters because they're building a world where the biggest amount of people possible, right? From like random ass rednecks to like some, to some guy that be dating like a stripper, but also working in the military, to like, the president of the United States, to like the military. It feels like they're building a universe where the most possible audience members are like, oh shit, that's like me. Like that guy's a lot like my
I want to get laid before the aliens blow me up too, just like that kid.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's like
exactly that little scene of just which is like, come on, baby, the world could end tonight.
Yeah, it's still at the end of the day.
Which, to be fair, is a good come on line, especially.
It is, but at the end of the day, it's still just a big dumb movie. You know what I mean? Which is exactly what I wanted, and why I liked it so much. It's like, no, it's just going to be too big. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It feels like they had to kill all those characters off.
Well, I feel like the way it works is that they actually they do a thing where you get investment in the characters before they're killed off, which is advisable if you want people to like care, right? But I think what happens a lot of
horror
times,
movies do.
right? Exactly. Like what I find that fails is where they give you like somebody is like telling you reasons why you should care on the screen. The
Right.
Star Wars
Yeah,
prequels are terrible about this. Here's all the reasons why you should feel this way.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what I should feel. Show it. And even like stuff as stupid as like, baby, world's gonna end tonight. Like, let's go. Like that kind of stuff. You're like, all right, I know I need to know about that kid. Right on. You know, like.
Well, although we
Good
never
on
see
him.
him again, but that's okay.
Yeah,
But like Harry Connick Jr. is a good example too. Like he was this very charismatic. You know, the whole scene where he like is like talking about how to kiss the ass of NASA, and then Will Smith drops the ring and he picks up the ring, and the guy thinks he's proposing to him, and just
yeah. It's just
"No,
like
I'm not asking.
you didn't. That really didn't need to be there, but like it gives you like a little extra depth of character, right?
And you became endeared to him too, because so when he dies later on in the dogfight, you know, you're just like, no, not Goose.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of like anonymous red shirt number 8, right?
Yeah.
And they also build the stakes up enough that you feel like you feel their friendship like really palpably, because he's giving him like relationship advice, saying like, well, you know, this is how you move up in the military. Like you're not.
Yeah. He doesn't get the promotion, and he gives them gives them like well, here's what you got to do. Yeah, exactly.
They build a very like realistic and like you know, compassionate friendship, I think, in a very short amount of time, just by that one scene where you're like, well, now I feel like I have stakes in this friendship. Like he's been friends with him, you know, presumably the entire time he's been stationed there. You know what I mean? Like he's even to the point where they've gotten drunk probably, and like, you know, talked about his relationship, that he's in love with her, but like, you know, wants to do better in the military. And you're like, damn, okay, so like you've gotten all that information put to you in the scene within seconds, and it's like, well, now I don't want him to die.
So now when you see him literally punch out an alien, you're like, yeah.
I mean, I remember the crowd in the audience, you know, just like, you know, welcome to Earth.
It was so interactive. Everyone in the audience was cheering, and it was one of the few times I accept that. But I thought it was messed up that he couldn't advance in his career because his wife was a stripper.
Yeah,
I mean, it is messed up.
That's
the point, though, right?
Like, yeah, I guess you're right, but it just seems like nowadays they'd be like, "Nah, that won't work. Nobody would believe that."
That was
anyway.
1996, right? So.
Yeah.
But there's also things like, you know, like little moments where like Will Smith is like looks out the window before he's like turned on the news, and there's like sees like the people hurriedly putting stuff in the cars. Oh, I guess they're moving out because of the earthquakes. That's crazy. Like I feel like a lot of movies now would feel like they would need to like have a scene with that family or whoever it was doing that, and like and like they don't bother with that, but they allow it to kind of build the tension of like, oh, he still doesn't know what's happening yet.
Yeah,
and that's why this works.
Just
right.
like
and
in
he's going
Jurassic
right back
Park,
to sleep again. Damn.
Just like in Jurassic Park, where Laura Dern
relatable,
sees a dinosaur and it's like distracted by something else.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You see everybody else's reaction around them, and you don't see you don't see the UFO until like Will Smith's like, wait, everybody on the street's doing this. What's going on? Looks up, and then not only that, you get the helicopter too swooping in for scale, and that helicopter.
So you see, it's gigantic,
and smaller, and just like
that's so cool.
You know, it just gives this amazing sense of perspective, and it really does make you feel like wow.
So I want to give due to the
and you don't and just real quick, you don't see that in stuff like the Tomorrow War and like recent ones. Like there isn't that sense of scope and scale. And first of all, everything looks plastic and rubbery because it's CGI only. The use of practical effects are very important with that. But like I like that it does take a while to get to the fireworks factory. You know what I mean? So. And
I want to give due to the people that made the models for this, because it's right on the it's right on the line between CGI, you know, being a factor and stuff, and you know, people still doing practical effects, which means it's in that perfect moment where you know, it's the best of practical effects and it's the best of CGI.
Small Soldiers by Joe Dante is the same way, where it's like largely practical effects, but there's like little bit of CGI here and there, and that arguably is like probably the best usage of CGI rather than just this full CGI immersive world we live in.
And the more they do CGI, the worse it looks a lot of times, like you know, over relying on it. But
and samey, it looks samey. It used to be like, oh, this is a Phil Tippett movie. You could tell it's like Phil Tippett's work because like it looks like Phil Tippett. And then like this is, you know, it's all of these different like artistic strokes to the effects themselves that now is like it all looks the same. Everybody gets download that same pack and, you know, grind on it.
Yeah. So this is from the making of. Actually, I want to introduce it with this first. This is how the making of documentary is introduced. It's Jeff Goldblum pretending he's taking us into a secret lair that they've concocted to.
Great.
So this is a minute clip, but after that, I want to. There's a 5-minute clip that I found of them talking about blowing up the White House, and they actually show like the model and stuff, which is really cool.
I'm Jeff Goldblum. Thank you. Hey, you ever hear of Area 51? Well, it's that secret place where recovered aliens and their craft are supposedly being held by the government. Well, they say that Area 51 doesn't really exist, but they say that about Area ID 4 too. And look where we are. It's Area ID 4. This seemingly desolate building is actually burgeoning with activity, secret activity, that they're trying to keep from us. See, there's a whole wealth of information that, if uncovered, would reveal to us the secrets behind one of this summer's most exciting and biggest movies, Independence Day. Watch this. See what I mean? It's not going to stop us. Okay, time for some good, honest labor, huh? Okay, we're in. No civilians ever gotten this far before. Very soon we should be coming face to face with the central question in Independence Day. Are we alone?
Do you know what CGI is?
No.
He's doing bits. That's great.
Wow.
He does so many bits in that making of thing. At one point he just goes into the restroom and he's like, first I have to make a stop, and it's just like the men's room.
Jeez. But yeah, that's what I was saying is all of these like special features back then were on the VHS tape after the credits, so you'd have to like fast forward,
watch the entire thing,
and then special features and deleted scenes.
This one might have been like a Sci-Fi Channel.
I was gonna ask, or like
I think
HBO,
it was on
maybe.
Fox. Yeah, maybe it was on Fox.
Well, that makes sense because Fox made the movie, but
I think it was like on network TV.
It sucks that. So one thing I really like on Prime Video is if you shout out to our sponsors Prime Video along with the aliens, is if you pause it, like it'll tell you.
Is an alien?
I mean, it'll show you on screen what the actors and actresses' names are. Cool. Very cool. That's a great feature.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love that kind of thing. What I miss
and the characters' names, which is what I use when I'm writing notes for this show.
Well, that can come in handy as well for different reasons. Yeah, but I feel like we've really missed something in current society and streaming society that we don't get these little like extra featurettes and like bonus stuff. Like, and that's one thing I like about the Criterion Channel so much. Shout out to our sponsor Criterion Channel, because you will get that stuff. Like you get the stuff that would have been that is or would have been on the Blu-ray or the DVD, and if you're interested, you can check it out. And like that's fantastic. Also, I used to enjoy commentary tracks, and like that's just like
hell yeah,
over.
Yeah. Especially as like a comic book artist, while drawing, you can watch the movie with commentary. And never even look up.
Especially when Schwarzenegger's doing it, because he'd just be like, "And this is the part where we drive the truck through the building. It was really expensive." Here's the part where the woman has 3 tits.
I want to see Goldblum's outtakes though. I want to see outtakes from that segment.
This is also like this is the point where Goldblum had fully gone into being like a ham actor. Like because we've talked about The Fly on here at one point. We've talked but I mean we've talked about the body invasion of the Body Snatchers when he's in that kind of as like a younger actor, and over time, right, he becomes more and more like
Jurassic Park is kind of like the turning point, I think, for the modern Jeff Goldblum.
Is he
Invasion of the Body Snatchers? He seems like he's a little coked up or something because he goes full tilt in that. But I'm saying like I feel like over time he develops that, and I've seen him talk to like I don't remember if it was like Stephen Colbert or something, or like what host it was, like a talk show host. I remember him talking about like his hemming and hawing, and like it's a very deliberate. I mean, it's obviously very deliberate, but like he has his own like words for what he does in those situations, and he's like, I start hemming and like hawing, like
my favorite is still
Without the
Buckaroo
oops.
Banzai.
Yeah.
Is he our most
Across
covered
fifth
actor on
dimension.
this channel? Because I think we've watched the most movies with him in it.
Probably. That'd be
Oh,
a
wow,
great
really?
metric to be able to figure out.
We might be
I
able
guess
to
we
do
just
that
look
with,
at we could look at Forrest Letterboxd maybe because he usually logs the stuff that we've done. So I love that I was talking about bonus features, right? This kind of thing was my favorite kind of bonus feature of like, hey, we just had an extra promotional budget and we decided to do something like kind of nuts, like whether it's like, some quasi in-universe thing or behind the scenes stuff, things along those lines. And it's crazy because if you remember when we did The Third Man, there's that whole like documentary about like, that sewer system of like, oh, here's the sewer, which is crazy because like, oh, that's all real.
They find some really good ones for Criterion.
Criterion's
especially.
like the best for that kind of thing, for sure.
Sometimes they'll just find stuff that was on like TV in Europe or something, and they'll just put be like, this is a European TV feature. Like I think a bunch of the ones for the Third Man were like European TV features
because it's a big deal for that country, right? So it's a big. But what I was going to get to is that I've talked often on this show, more often than you would expect, about the new type of show, which is just like it's this person running around being this person, right? Like my takeaway with that, the one I mock mercilessly the most is the one where Sammy Hagar just runs around as Sammy Hagar, and I'm just like, I want that job, but I can't abide watching that show. But the best one is The World According to Jeff Goldblum, which is National Geographic, where he just goes and he just runs around and he finds out how bicycles works this episode, and like he like runs around and does bicycle stuff, and then he like finds out how ice cream is made, and then he like, and I was like, this is the best thing because like it's also. I don't believe it would work if it was anyone else. It's because it's him and how he interacts with it. And part of it is that kind of like, he's clearly a very thoughtful, intelligent guy, but like the way he interacts with all this stuff is like, very clinical, but also like very emotionally invested. Like it's a very interesting show.
I bet the Area 51 thing was his idea now. And I'll bet you he was like really heavy handed with direction and stuff like that. And they were like, all right, Jeff, back off. And he's like, no, I have a whole vision for this.
I think that I can really come up with some good ideas in front of
what if I touch the fence and
well, because think about when did the X-Files come out? It was like 93, right? So
it was right around then.
It definitely was not a hit in the first year. I remember that because it was Briscoe County Jr. that was the one everyone thought was going to be a successful one.
Yes.
And then
I remember going to see The Crow thinking I'm never going to see the series finale of The X-Files.
Yeah, and I think it took like till its third season or so until it actually got like kind of like catching some fire, if I remember correctly. So where I'm getting at with that is that Area 51, think about all the stuff that X-Files normalized for like average human beings that are not total comic book nerds like most of the people on this panel, myself included. Area 51 would have been like not common knowledge, like unless you listen to like the Art Bell show or something, right? Which I did too, also. But like again, that's not a thing that most human beings were doing. So Jeff Goldblum's like, Area 51, interesting, because that's a very real place, and we could, like it probably was like this prototypical idea that like later on, National Geographic pitched him to do a show, and he's just like wants to investigate something every episode, and it's interesting because like. I think once you know that about him and how incredibly inquisitive he is, I think his characters and what he brings to the characters makes sense. And that's why he's so great in this role, which, by the way, he's great in this role. And Judd Hirsch as his dad is just perfect.
Yeah, it was great. Great
Perfect
casting.
casting.
Yeah.
I also I think it's funny that this is like completely off topic, but with Jeff Goldblum, he played Nick Kroll's dad in the league in like the final season or whatever. Or like,
you know what? I never saw the final season of that. I watched the whole thing except for the final season.
I think it was in more than just. I think it was in a couple seasons. It was like the Thanksgiving episode or something.
Okay,
but he came in as Nick Kroll's dad, and I was like, that's such a weird like. They look enough alike that it's like I could see it, but like at the same time, like damn, you guys really are pulling the heavy.
Well, they started doing that thing where they'd have like celebrity guests and stuff, and I that's actually I was like, you know what, I think I'm out, man.
I liked when they'd bring in football players, and I'm like, I don't know who any of these are.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, exactly. I don't care about that.
Do you remember Judd Hirsch as he was an actual heartthrob on Taxi back in the day?
Oh yeah. Which is crazy. Weren't the 70s great, everybody?
Yeah, I love that.
Apparently.
Yeah. And I loved his show Dear John in the 80s.
Oh yeah, that's right.
First Dear John reference on this show that I'm aware of.
Wow.
Well, they made they made a big deal about Judd Hirsch in Ordinary People, right?
Ordinary People was big.
This year.
That was the only other time he was nominated. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So they kept on. I kind of felt bad for the guy. They kept on putting pictures of Judd Hirsch from 1980 next to Judd Hirsch in 2022 or whatever, right? And they were putting those pictures side by side, being the only 2 times he was nominated. And I'm like, come on, man! I feel like that probably doesn't make him feel great about himself. Or maybe
he
does,
works.
I don't know. I watched that god awful TV show where there was this immortal. Yeah, that's not Highlander. There's no sword fighting in it. They replaced sword fighting with Judd Hirsch, and I watched every single episode of that god awful show.
Why do you do this to yourself?
Busiest
guy not involved, I guess.
Because Judd Hirsch,
he's really the busiest guy that ever lived. I think
he's always working. I mean,
oh no, I meant Andy.
Credit. Oh, okay.
I meant Andy's the busiest guy.
Wow, he's in Hunters. Hunters that's a good show that more people should watch.
What about the voice or the sound effect for the aliens?
What about it?
Have you guys? Oh, sorry. Did you want to go to this video? Oh,
no. You finish your
No, we can let you talk once in a while. It's all right.
Have you guys? Did you guys look into this at all? It was 2 guys that did it. One was Frank Welker, who was the voice of Fred from Scooby Doo.
Also, wasn't he Megatron?
Soundwave.
Soundwave,
Transformers,
okay.
yeah, and I think it was that one. And
we regret the error.
He's been the voice of he's been the voice of Scooby Doo for a while now too. So anyway, totally weird, right? But then the other guy, and I know about this guy. His name's Gary Hecker. I know about him from Zack Snyder's Watchmen. Somehow, it was like a special feature or a credit or something that I saw. He is he's done vocal effects for 20-some, 30-some films. But he's a Foley artist for over 400 films. And so that's the guy who does everyday sound effects, we got a sword coming out of a sheath or a video game or a typewriter. So he's
or we need somebody to walk here. Can you put cantaloupes and
exactly. You're walking on gravel.
I've brought it up in the past, but my friend Ryan Collison won a Emmy for Narcos.
Oh wow!
That's what he does.
I have to wonder if 400 is a lot or not. It seems like a lot to me. 400 films seems.
Yeah. I think that's about like what a working Foley artist who's done it a long time. That's about normal.
But Independence Day was supposedly his second film. His first one was the sound or the voice of a bear in Legends of the Fall, which makes me wonder why they couldn't get an actual bear to do it.
Bart
but
the bear.
Whatever. You got to
where's Bart?
Yeah.
Bart was around.
Yeah,
Bart representation.
Isn't
by the way, Frank Welker was in the Michael Bay movies as Megatron, which is where I got.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Once again, we regret the error.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So
now we
never doubted you.
So this is them talking about blowing up the White House.
Thank God. Yeah, get us out of here.
Play us out.
Doing the explosion of the White House. This model probably costs in excess of $50,000. I get one shot at it. There's a great many variables that go into the completion and the successful blowing of a model like this. One has to consider what the model is made out of, in this case plaster. You have to know the scale. You have to know the size of the charges that you're using, how much gas, what the camera speeds are.
Mike Joyce and his team of geniuses sat down and built this unbelievable replica of the White House.
We're building that at 12 scale, which is over 14 feet wide, and we're going to blow it up, and it'll look tremendous when it goes.
This had to be a world-class product because all the cameras that we're setting up around here are within 10 feet of this particular model. And even though it's an existing piece of architecture, there are still things that have to be artistically rendered before it even gets to the model shop. Then the model shop takes all of those blueprints, like you're really building a real house, and then they have to manufacture all of that.
We put a lot of thinking into that. Everything was a mold, so every piece was built like the White House was built, out of single pieces.
The important factor is to make sure that you have a lot of information on film, so you want to make it as slow as possible.
The normal camera speed would be 24 frames per second. It's 1 second of film. We're shooting tonight with 300 frames per second. So that means when the actual explosion takes place, you're slowing it down 12 times. The whole thing looks 12 times slower in the end.
Even though you're shooting 300 frames per second, if I was to use something like dynamite, you would have maybe 2 frames of explosion and that's it. You want to blow it up in stages and you want to see the pieces and debris flying out of there. Everything will be falling in front of the camera or jetting out the sides. And all the camera crews are going to be unmanned and everybody is in a safe position.
Let's clear, please. When you start to come down to that 10-minute mark, everybody's very concerned because, of course, there's hundreds and hundreds of hours, tens of thousands of dollars, and what we really want to do is make sure that we just don't stub our toe at the last moment. We really only want to do this once.
Roll cameras. Roll cameras, please. Hey! Hey! And action!
We did everything that I expected it to be, and everything went off. We didn't have any problems. Our timing was right. The debris was right. Fireball was perfect. And this is what's left of it.
Okay, now, if it isn't scaled down or blown up, when it comes to special effects in Independence Day, it's probably going to be CGI, computer-generated image. Want to see how that's done?
Hey.
Hey.
Blowing up the White House is something that one wouldn't want to do practically. So we figure out how to do that as a visual effect and how to creatively put it together in the computers.
If you could actually go blow up the White House, we wouldn't need to do compositing, but since we don't want to really do that, we have a model and we have all these elements.
My job on this particular shot was to add a model destroyer in the sky and a beam coming down from the ship with particles, and it strikes the top of the White House as the actual model is exploding.
There's really 2 distinct fields of visual effects. One is compositing, the other is CGI, computer-generated imagery. The difference between the two is compositing, you're putting the elements together, and CGI, you're actually generating elements. The same way if you were shooting an element, you're actually creating something that didn't exist before.
One of the beauties of compositing is that rather than trying to do everything in camera, trying to do everything live, where you would have to have a model, you'd have to have a spaceship to scale, you'd have to have pyro, and all of that happening at the same time, by compositing in layers, it allows us to choreograph each layer perfectly and then put them together. And it's really all about having control of each element as it goes together. The director's dreams can come true in a way that he can watch it happen on the screen.
The aliens and the F-18s engage in the largest air battle in history, and we needed to put that on the screen.
Squadron leaders, your base to maneuver.
Is the Independence Day CG department that we set up specifically for the show. Computer graphics is the 3D environment used in digital effects, and these animators are here doing all the computer graphics. We have an additional company called Vision Art that's also doing some of the graphics for us as well.
On this show, we had several sets of challenges. One of the biggest ones was the dogfight scenes. We're animating hundreds of airplanes in the air at the same time. To do that plane by plane is just a really painstaking process. It takes a really long time. So you have to do not only each F-18 or each attacker, but then each attacker shoots and each F-18 fires missiles and tracers. You've got literally thousands of things to keep track of in the scene. Since we're doing this all with computers, the computers are really good at simulating all those things. So we've written programs which do nothing but simulate the dogfight scenes in a way that we have a lot of control over them. Because there's a limited amount of horsepower in the computer, we have to use primitives or these little dots to represent each of the airplanes at first. What you're seeing right now is white dots for each of the F-18s and red dots for each of the alien attackers. It's only stepping a few frames per second. It's only stepping very slowly through the dogfight, and that's so we can tweak each of the individual parameters.
Funky beat.
It's awesome.
I like how he's like,
sure I
this,
watched
this
that.
computer doesn't have very much horsepower.
I love the explanation of CGI, making something that isn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's this brand new
fascinating to watch.
technology we got. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a real time capsule, that video. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's just like in the movie when they're talking about a virus, right? Like a computer virus. Like, what's that? Oh
yeah,
my
what
God,
is
it
that?
sounds
I'm going to
horrible.
give it a
Wow.
cold, he says first. I'm going to give it a cold.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
It's a virus.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's he also has like, and I like that they advertised it with the thing with like one of the first Apple laptops, right? Like the PowerBook
Yeah.
3500 or whatever, and they're using it throughout the entire thing. And once you see it, like you can't unsee how many times he like whips out his fucking PowerBook and he's like, "Yeah, let's do this." Like,
and with really spotless, just incredibly great 1996 cell phone coverage too. To be able to hack computers like that and track things, and it's
There
kinda-
was a
you have to be like, "Oh, do you have an Ethernet an Ethernet cable at the
a dongle at
the
that
White
point, an
House?"
Ethernet
Like-
dongle. Yeah. Because it would have been a dial-up modem. Would have been 56K would have been like top of the line at that point. 9600
Those
would have been.
computers, they're so small though.
There was a slogan for that PowerBook, whatever that model was, that was like, "What kind of laptop would you choose to save the world?" That was a real freaking. You can find the ad.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
That's great.
Pretty shameless. Yeah,
I
is
think
that great?
I think I had a couple seconds of it in the that came.
Yeah,
up in
I
the
saw.
intro.
Right. Yeah, you had like a little bit of it, but yeah, I remember that slogan because it was like, what? Like, again, knowing that like nobody knew anything about this film before it came out, really, and I love that like one of the stated things with who's the guy who wrote it, because they wrote it together, Emmerich and
Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich.
Devlin, right? Yeah. Well, I know who Roland Emmerich is, but I remember the big thing is Dean Devlin wanted to be on this like big grand scale, because I always disliked how in movies like aliens are always like, it's a cornfield like out in Kansas somewhere where nobody sees it. He wanted to be on a really grand scale, and in that same thing, I know Mary McDonnell accepted the role because their agent pitched the film by saying it's about 15-mile wide spaceships, and she's like, "I'm in." Which I think is fantastic.
Oh yeah, did for Alien Invasion what I think movies like 28 Days Later did for Fast Zombies. You know what I mean? Put it on that scale. I'd love to see more stuff like that, like ghost movies and horror movies where everyone sees it, right?
Spielberg was going to do War of the Worlds around this time, and he chose to like delay it by almost 10 years because of it. And also Mars Attacks was about to come out at the same time, and they ended it was like 6 months or something, right? That they delayed it.
Mars Attacks was supposed to come out. This movie came out obviously July. Mars Attacks came out in December.
Yeah,
So
but it was
there
supposed
like
to come
6
out
months.
like
Yeah.
It was supposed to come out like at the same time. They're like, no, push it.
and then there's all these quotes from like Tim Burton and like his producers being like, "We've got to beat out Independence Day," which they were never going to do, but like that was their like big like we've got to take them down.
No way.
Can I tell you something that Mars Attacks shares with Independence Day? They use the same White House interiors, which they also use for Nixon and the American president, Aaron Sorkin.
Which, by the way, was came out like right after they finished filming this movie. So like it was in that kind of sweet spot. I looked that up because I was like thinking like because you saw my review from last year because I watched it last July 4th, and yeah, you liked it on Letterboxd.
For the review of American President or review of this?
Of Independence Day.
Oh, of Independence Day. Okay.
Yeah. So I was just curious because basically this wrapped up filming like a couple months before the American President came out. And I think this does Sorkin better than Sorkin ever did.
That's funny. This had a lot to live up to because I think Waterworld came out the year before, right? Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring that up.
I know it does hold the record for strike that from the record. It holds a record for the most miniature model work, or at least it used to appear in one film. I know that,
Yeah,
or at least it did
I
for a
think
while.
anyone's
I don't think
beat
it's
that
been
since.
surpassed it. Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary, frankly. And honestly,
it beats it also like by like some crazy number. Like it's more than twice what.
No, it's like an insane amount, and like that's one of the reasons why I think it still holds up, frankly.
Yeah,
So
well,
someone did a documentary.
Got him. More like Aaron Dorkin. Yeah.
Someone did a documentary with the team that did the models for this movie, and it's like a more recent documentary where they talk about a lot of the stuff. It's like you can look it up on. I'll find the name of it, but you can look it up on YouTube. It's like a 14-minute documentary.
Nice.
We were working on the Playa Vista lot, which is the old Hughes helicopter facility that somebody had been smart enough to convert into a soundstage, and we're trying to turn it into a movie studio. But we were in a pretty good sized building for our model shop, and we started out doing some tests. And they wanted to see if what they wanted to do would work. Mike brought in Joe Skosel, and the tests that they wanted to do, Tom Greep, myself, Greg Stool, built a bunch of buildings, and then we basically attached them to a platform that was hung vertically. So the street had a slight angle to it. So what they would do is then put the camera up here, so you're looking down the street. And then Joe put a nice big bowl of benzoyl peroxide and a little bit of black powder, whatever he was using to set it off, down right underneath that, so that the fire would be just this wall of fire just moving right up the street, and it worked beautifully. And again, this was just a test that we were setting up to do. It worked so well, it ended up in the movie. And then we filmed a bunch of like 16th scale cars that we bought at Toys R Us, and basically wrapped cable around them front to back. So when you pulled the cable, they would flip towards the camera, right? And because Roland said,
like fire engine,
great new technology that can just paint the wire out. Like, what? You can go in and just paint right on the film. How is this magic possible? So we, they set up some cameras, some high-speed cameras, and again, this was still in the model shop. We're doing the test. We just had very thin cable or monofilament, and just flipped these cars right at the camera. The deal, it was like, see if you can hit the camera. Pretty much, we had a piece of protective plex up there, but Roland just wanted them to smack the camera if they could. So we flipped these guys, and then we had some smaller cars, which we kind of pre-broke apart. So doors would come off, hoods would come off, tires would come off. So we set these up and then used what are called air movers, which is just like a big blower. You have a guy underneath it and just kind of, it's like almost a big hair dryer. And so it would blow the cars towards the camera. It was a really good transition film because it was the first time, we built miniature F-18s for the show. We built miniature alien spaceships for the dogfight sequences. Shooting those planes and alien craft interacting on a stage, at the scale that they wanted to do, would just not have been possible. At the end of the film, where you've got 100 planes and 100 alien ships engaging each other, they were just scratching their heads. How are we going to do this? And the guys,
$1 billion.
There's this concept of flocking and swarming that we can do, and we can actually build a CG model of these aircraft, and they did. And I thought they looked great. They did a really phenomenal job on it. But it was interesting for all the destruction stuff. We definitely wanted to do that for real, because particle effects weren't where they are today. Fire effects were nowhere near where they are today. I mean, you couldn't break stuff up well. The computer power wasn't there.
It's true. And it looks horrible when you try.
Funny
because
how
everyone's overly reliant on it.
Funny how the interviews with a guy who keeps talking about how other guys did stuff. Like, why don't they interview them? Who is this chap? Just the boss? Like he's like, yeah, and then we got this guy to do this, and then these guys were doing this. It's like, what the hell did you?
He's
do?
the face. Everyone else is too nerdy to be on camera. No one else is articulate.
Like
Well,
he was in his
or
garage.
maybe this is like a good intro to to like socialism, and you can talk about the managing class, the people that just kind of sit around while other people, like the workers, right, like the laborers have to do the
he got paid
thing.
6 figures. They got paid minimum wage.
Or they were all union and they had like a scheduled break, and he was the one non-union guy, so he got
He's
on
like-
camera or something.
No,
No,
that
they
went a
actually-
totally different direction than I expected that clip to take
Sorry,
us. But I once again, practical effects, man. It's
you're
practical effects are timeless, and CGI is grimy.
I love the thought of them like taking a bunch of Hot Wheels cars though and just trying to
Yeah,
flip
that
them
fire
off the
engine.
actual
Like,
camera,
that's a perfect example. Like, where you see that fire, and like, if you see that on a big screen, you're like, oh man, because it's a real thing with like actual weight that's moving in a way that real things move.
And it
And
looks
getting
good
test
too.
footage?
I just rewatched The Crow on my nice new HD TV, and I gotta say, like the effects of the miniatures used in that really don't hold up on the HD TV. I mean, it's different.
Yeah,
whenever
sometimes you
look
don't
at
want
your
that
old-
HD.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the CRT, well, watch it on the old CRT screen. The with the 400 lines looks way better than watching it on an HD TV. But
it's like motion smoothing when they have that on, where it's like, what is happening? Why does everyone look like a shitty cartoon?
But I love that they
we had
use
to
test
trade Kristina to our sponsors in order to get the contract that allowed us to to be the number one alien podcast. We have actually outpaced Joe Rogan because all the aliens are watching are just sending us through the computers. He didn't trust the injectables. I did trust the injectables from the aliens. So we've outpaced Joe Rogan here on the number one alien podcast.
We'd like to welcome our new overlords and our new sponsors, who are the same thing.
yes. And this week, the part of Kristina will be played by Letterhack.
It's a
I
permanent.
can't
addition.
hold a candle. No way.
So, but I think it works for CGI to be like touch up, to remove wires and things like that. That works. I have no problem against that. What I have a problem with is it being used for literally everything, which is what everybody just does now as the default, and it all looks terrible and plastic and all looks the same. And that goes back to what I was saying before about, you could always tell somebody came from Tippett Studio. You could always tell someone came from, this one or that one, like whatever. I mean, going all the way back, like think about Dawn of the Dead, right? Like the real Dawn of the Dead, not the Zack Snyder one. Like,
yeah.
A lot of times.
Wait, Zack Snyder made one?
He made a movie, all right, and it was fine, but it shouldn't have been called Dawn of the Dead. That they were just coming up with stuff on the fly, and it's like it ends up being like really unique and ended up being influential in its own way because of that, which is a separate conversation. But the lack of
we had
practical
that too.
What's that?
We had that too on our classic episode of Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead, which is the first Renee Bruin episode, if I remember correctly. But the thing with that is that all these movies now, especially like these big quote unquote sci-fi movies and action movies, they all look exactly the same now. And I hate that. And like it's always interesting when something actually does something stylistically different. I feel like some big budget filmmaker should just use practical effects and models, and it would instantly be a hit, and people wouldn't even be able to articulate why they liked it.
Unless it's like The Thing, where they then reshot everything with CG and made it look like shit.
Yeah. It would be cool to see a movie about what that guy was talking about. You know what I mean? I always want to see like the behind the scenes movie, not like 30 Rock, where they kind of make it like a satire or whatever, but it's something I think it would be cool to go back to, like, what kind of headbutting was there between the CGI and the practical effects guys, or was there harmony, and how'd that work out? Like I feel like I'm missing that story from history.
Yeah, or like you could like stage a fucking documentary where it's like drama between the fucking practical effects and CGI teams.
Yeah.
They're both trying to like get more and more control over like a movie like Independence Day, because it wouldn't work now, because now they'd fucking
there is no practical effects team on most movies.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it would have to be staged around this time period, this late 90s, like early 2000s, which is hilarious because they did not have CGI as masters they thought they did back then.
No.
Right.
Like,
No, but when they use it sparingly,
Jumanji, like look how bad.
I was just gonna. What I was going to say is the prosecution would like to present the evidence of Jumanji for the record, please.
Yeah. And then of course, for some reason, Spielberg saw Jumanji and goes, "That's the monkeys I want in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull."
Exactly. Let's steal from the best.
Yes.
I just had a firework go off outside that I thought was like static for a second. Like it sounded like something, and I was like, "Oh my god, did I just blow a light or something?" And I was like, "Oh no, wait, it was like the static side of a fucking firework."
We got the grand finale going on right now over here. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can't hear it though.
I don't have any neighbors setting off fireworks just like in the parking lot, which is so nice.
Is this
all that?
Is this? I don't care about any of that. Sorry. Is this one of Bill Pullman's best roles? Because I think it is. Like as the president, like it's over the top, but like it's
pretty
best.
good.
Perfect
Heckling
for this
Forrest. Heckling Forrest was his best role.
I was gonna say
that's a short film. That's not a feature length film.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it's amazing that the speech he gives, the speech, right? Apparently nobody was coached to like cheer and applaud afterwards, but people were like so into it they just like did it like
spontaneously. Wow.
Do you think Sorkin got really mad when he saw it? Like he's like doing a line of blow, going like, "What the fuck, man? This is
What am I
better than
doing
Shadow."
here? Yeah, but they set it up so eloquently, like with like it's John McLaughlin, everybody of the McLaughlin group, which is hilarious. Which it would be like Lawrence O'Donnell is always the one that plays that character now, where like someone's on the news telling you about the thing that's happening because that guy is just shameless about wanting to be on the television, just like Anderson Cooper.
Wolf Blitzer every now and then.
Every once in a while, yeah, if you're feeling nasty. But with Bill Pullman, they talk about him being a fighter pilot, like almost like, like 3 or 4 minutes in, and how like, oh, but everyone thinks he's a whip now, blah, 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 this and that. Yeah, okay, so Lone Star, fine. Okay, fine, that's sure. Lone Star's good as well. But
that's
like,
true, but yeah.
Up to the...
That's an ensemble.
Okay, hold on. I'm going somewhere. Yeah. Settle the fuck down.
And
like
then we can talk about Lost Highway.
Chat on the screen.
Go ahead. Conan, go.
Okay, so you get this buildup of him, and like, what kind of leader is this guy, right? Like, and the fact, like, oh, hey, we're gonna use this nuke on the spaceship, and like they see, yeah, you guys, you gotta do it, like whatever, and he's like, hemming and hawing about it, doesn't want to like make that call. He does. It goes over and over with this, and then you kind of forget, like, oh yeah, this guy's an ex-fighter pilot. So then when he gets in the fighter pilot to go fight with everyone else, which, to be clear, is preposterous, but it works because this movie is completely over the top. That's why it works, and it's great in that way because you're like, oh yeah, well you've been like seeing this guy over and over again. He like seems like he doesn't want to put people in harm's way. He's like making these tough choices. Is that? Oh yeah, I guess he is a fighter pilot. All right, sure, yeah, why not? Why wouldn't he fly one of these planes himself? Sure, absolutely.
Well, it starts off with him kind of having that like Zelensky energy, right? Like where it's like, oh, like this is a guy that, Congress is like hitting him over and over again. He's kind of getting unpopular. This is like a politician. And he's like, oh, I'll stay behind with my country. And it's like, it's that kind of like Zelensky energy. And then it definitely, I don't think it jumps the shark because it's such a big, like spectacle of a movie. But then it's like, oh, well, I'll just, get on top and I'm going to lead my country in the fucking plane itself.
So you interrupted me before I was done. And so what I was going to say is the only reason that works is because of that ridiculous Sorkin could never speech, frankly.
Yeah.
But because of it, and again, as a movie, I think if you're talking about like an actual situation where someone's like, come on, we're not going to let you, you're the president of the United States. We're not going to let you fly in this fucking plane, dude.
Right.
But the thing is, like, you get so wrapped up, and if you're earnestly engaging with this film in the over the topness of it, when it gets like one of the best, like, pseudo jingoistic, like, for freedom speeches, like, ever in the history of cinema, then you're like, yeah, sure, let him fly the plane. And then later on, wait, why do we let the president fly in this? Like, everyone's getting shot down. Where does anyone know where the vice president is? Oh yeah, the vice president was killed.
They also show you like the Israelis and Palestinians kind of coming together, and it's like all of these.
Hezbollah banned the movie because of that. Because they didn't want images of those everyone being partners, which I think is kind of says a lot about the state of what the movie's trying to say, because again, in a heavy-handed way, it's like, oh well, it's uniting against a common cause. Watchmen was invoked earlier, right? In especially the comic book, and I guess a little bit in the Zack Snyder vehicle, like you get like, oh, it would take an outside force to be able to get all these disparate forms of humanity and these disparate governments together to fight with each other and set aside their differences. So a threat to the entire planet, that qualifies. Small things, like where, like, how do they get it across? Morse code. Everyone knows Morse code, right? I think that works. That's like, all right, cool. Yeah, I can see that. Like, it's all just plausible enough that as long as you're engaging with good faith, and again, I'm not saying it's the most intelligent movie of all time, because it really isn't. But it works in all the ways that it should work, which I just wish most blockbusters could pull off. And like Armageddon, no. No, man.
No, you're right. It's like if you don't like this exact movie, it's because you don't like these kinds of movies. But that doesn't mean that you have to like these kinds of movies exclusively, right? Like, this is the one that you can't not like. You know what I mean? It's like, you can watch a terrible movie and people will say, oh, sometimes you got to have fun. It's like, no, that was a terrible movie. This is not a terrible movie.
This is not a terrible movie. I agree. And
unapologetically big time blockbuster.
But it's a good one.
I feel like the fact that it knows that, right? And I wonder how much of that is the fact that it's like a German guy writing it, right? Like, it's not a rah America first kind of director that's directing and writing it. It's a very, I mean, you can just tell from like the small clip with Roland Emmerich where he's like, oh, it's like the aliens, they wouldn't necessarily, like, why would they come talk to us? Like, he's kind of a kind of silly, a very kind of silly kind of metro German man that's writing this, and it's like,
and he's not approaching it from like a Starship Troopers standpoint, but he's approaching it with like, with that kind of self-awareness that isn't crippling self-awareness. Where it's like, he knows he's not trying to make American propaganda. He's even a U.S. citizen, right? I mean, like, or is he? I don't know, but like, he's not. That's not the goal of this movie, and it's not meant to be like a satire in that way. It's meant to be an embodiment of this. The rare case of it is exactly what you think it is, but it's also awesome, and that's so rare for a big blockbuster for me.
This is an interview he did on set while filming this. I kind of I find this, like, I feel like watching this, I kind of know a lot more about him as a person, because he's kind of just like a silly guy that's like talking about, why would the aliens come in this, I mean, come down and talk to us. Like, you kind of realize it's not like he's satirical about this movie, but like, he's coming at it from a place of like, I'm trying to entertain and I'm trying to create a large spectacle, and I'm kind of like, I understand that I'm kind of a goofy character to be doing this.
Do you believe in UFOs?
You know what? I don't really believe in UFOs. I believe like that there's life, and other life form out there in the universe, but I always like doubted that they come visiting us, because I always think they're like not that special,
Wait, let me try to find it and pull it up, because it's not the...
Well, and again, just to reiterate the point, I think letting the president fly off in the plane to go like fight the aliens only works because of how like it's been building to like this dark night of the soul for like, I think it's gonna work. He gives this again. Aaron Sorkin can never speech. I think that all works, and is it ridiculous? Goddamn right it is. But it's like, again, there's 15-mile wide spaceships we're talking about. The whole thing's ridiculous from the jump, right? So I mean, that's why it works.
Do you think Aaron Sorkin created The West Wing to try to match the speech in this movie?
When did that debut in 97?
I think it was 98, but yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, okay, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, what was he up to? Well, he's up to American President is what he's up to.
Yeah, because he had
They
American
stole
President.
the set, so it must have been on his mind, I guess. I don't know. Matt, what do you think? What do you think about the speech and the president flying away?
Oh, it's epic. It had to happen. I mean, the delivery of the speech is better than the speech, really. If you ask me, it's like the way he could have been saying anything, and it wouldn't matter. It's like the way he delivers it is like, this guy's in charge. You are all going to follow him, right? He's like the leader. Like, it's undeniable. And so
he seems to flounder at one point, and he starts rhyming. He's like, "We will not go gently into that good night.
We are going to go and give them a fight."
But then he flies. He's like he's in the trenches with him, right? He's like, you're not alone. I'm going to go with you. It's like the ultimate leader, man. It's very old school. I loved it. You'll never get
and
a
apparently
president like that.
the writer, yeah, exactly. That's why it's fiction. But like, apparently Devlin like wrote the speech in like 5 minutes as a placeholder with the idea that they would, we'll change this up later. And they're like, no, this is great.
That's
like,
great.
Don't change anything. But he was like, he didn't think, he was like, we can do better.
Do you believe in UFOs?
You know what? I don't really believe in UFOs. I believe like that there's life, another life form out there in the universe, but I always like doubted that they come visiting us because I was thinking we're like not that special, you know. What do they care about us, you know? We're like hitting each other constantly. We're killing each other. We like kind of make this planet dirtier and dirtier every year. You know, why should they come to us? Probably like kind of give us a warning. You know, like parents saying, you know, stop that. Value the nature or something like that. But overall, I think, you know, I'm a very skeptical person anyhow. I think in nothing.
Now, I want to know, what do you think aliens would say if they saw your film?
Like probably like would be like the Arabs. They would be totally pissed, you know, because like the Arabs constantly get like used as like bad guys in the Hollywood movies. So they were pretty much like would like kind of like stay together probably with some like other Arab nations, some protests, you know, against our movie and say it's not nice of you guys. So, but we can take that. Hopefully they not come before we have our movie released. Afterwards we don't care anymore.
And what did you put in the time capsule?
We actually put the movie trailer in because we kind of wanted to kind of like take some you know, of the movie itself, but we could like actually take really something from the movie because it's not finished yet. So
fair enough.
I mean, this movie is a time capsule.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love the line where he's,
you could not make this after 9/11, to be explicitly freaking clear.
Good point.
But I just love the line where he's like, you know, the aliens would look at it like we do as the Arabs do, you know, is that like you portray us very badly in this movie like this.
Yeah, we do not burst from chests. We do not blow up White Houses.
He also says the fucking Big Lebowski thing where he's like, I believe in nothing.
Oh yeah. I love the design of the aliens, both the aliens themselves and their little bio suits.
They kind of have that alien autopsy look, that gray alien from the X-Files, but more.
A lot of KY jelly.
very wet. Weirdly not as wet as Giger's designs, of course, but who could be? But I like that they came up with the two designs for the aliens, and they just used them both. Like, this would be the regular alien, and this would be the alien, and then they're like battle suits, which I thought was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Well, I also really love the fact that the aliens have the same tolerance to heat, cold.
Yeah.
You know, like we have a perfect planet for them. They're literally just like our biome. The only difference is that they're better at technology, which in every single war, you know what I mean? Like the group that wins, like it's humans versus humans, and then whoever has the better technology, a lot of times, you know what I mean? Like ends up being able to
U.S. versus most places. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of a genius way to do it, like because you know you're like, well, these are not that big a threat as long as like Will Smith can literally just punch one out like he's Chris Rock or something, you know what I mean? Like
there it is. Mark the time, hour 18 minutes. Yep.
Well, it's been on my thing the entire time. Chris Rock got the alien treatment, but
no, really did, yeah.
But like. It feels like, well, the thing you're really surmounting here is the technology, like the biotechnology suit.
And henceforth removing the shield removes that technological advantage and allows them to win. And that's, again, I didn't get, you know, whatever. This is a third, fourth time I've seen it. Again, not counting the 40 to 50 times that I've seen scenes of it on cable, you know, just like bits and pieces here and there. But that was one of the takeaways I have, as well as the conservationist message, which is so subtle and oblique that like I didn't even think about it. It was like, oh yeah, like if these aliens, like because nobody stops to think about why the aliens are doing this, right? But it's like, oh no, they basically rape and pillage planets. That's what they do. They like run around. They're like locusts. They is how they say in the movie, right? And I think about it in this terms of like, and this ties into sometimes that makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't. Interstellar, which we're doing next week. It's never mentioned like why the Earth, like why is the Earth screwed? Something to do with wind. Anyway, here's space and time travel. What? Okay, like I guess it doesn't matter, but it fits. They didn't have to do an explainer for it, but they get it in a small little bit of dialogue that's done extemporaneously that is not just exposition for exposition's sake. And that's saying a lot.
I do appreciate that it's just classic invasion movie. There's no like, oh, they tricked us. They looked like they were here to offer technology, but they duped us into slavery. I love that it was just like, nope, it's an invasion. Like, it's that simple.
Exactly. It doesn't need to be anything more complicated.
They're evil. We're going to have to fight them. And if we don't come together, we'll lose. So
well, yeah, and that unity, right? Like it's the unity that goes across that speech that makes it work. Where he's like, "Well, this might, America might be first. This might be the 4th of July, but now it's all of our Independence Day."
So can I say, and we've talked often on this show about how like some movies that shall remain nameless would have been better if they'd been called literally anything other than what they were called. Independence Day is perfect for this. The studio wanted to call it Doomsday, which is so bad and generic. It's like calling it Independence Day. This is the perfect movie to do that. There's even like a call to unity of like, oh, no, this is the Independence Day for like all of mankind, blah, 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 et cetera, et
that's
cetera.
how you know they'll win. They wouldn't call it Independence Day if you were going to lose.
If you call it Doomsday,
they might lose. Yeah, you don't know.
it's horrible. That is terrible.
I wouldn't have to see it. It would have been like
no, nobody would have.
Although I did see Waterworld in the theater, so I have no excuse.
Me too. I did too. It was a date though.
It's a great concept.
The ecological message, you'd have to guess with the research.
Which to be fair, Emmerich did do Day After Tomorrow.
Things that give, like all of us our wake up call, right? Like to be better to each other and to maybe conserve the planet that we have and to build a better White House next time. I guess that doesn't blow up so easily. No, like the thing that brings us all together when we have all of these divisions, when we have all of these things, and the thing that brings us to the movie theater to watch this side by side and cheer is that unity, where it's like all of us coming together. That message I think is so universal by the end point, right? Like bringing all these different desperate characters.
Independence Day.
Yeah.
Everybody you get to see this montage of all these different countries getting getting the message, and then everybody like finally acts together against this common enemy, and it works. If you call it Doomsday, that ruins all of that. That doesn't make it poignant at all. That's just this is a dumb thing to call a movie. Also, it's important to note that the conservation aspect of things. This is the same guy that did Day After Tomorrow, which is that incredibly heavy-handed ecological attempted blockbuster that is not nearly so successful or good. Although I did see it in the theater, it was fine.
I'm reading on Wikipedia about Roland Emmerich's house, and it sounds incredible.
Wait, did you get invited over for a pool party? Why are you reading about his house?
No. It's on Wikipedia.
He only has one house.
He has multiple houses. He has houses in L.A., London.
I think I actually watched
New York and Stuttgart. But apparently,
I watched Day After Tomorrow at the movie theater too.
Really? Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a collector of art, which includes paintings of Jesus Christ wearing Catherine Hammett-styled T-shirt during his crucifixion, prints of Allison Jackson's work of Princess Diana look-alike, making obscene gestures and engaging in sex acts, a wax sculpture of Pope John Paul II laughing at his own obituary.
Whoa.
He does seem to be like the king of like meta postmodernism. Like
a photoshopped image of Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad doing in a homoerotic pose.
But like both his personal aesthetic and the kind of like movies that he gets obsessed with is this kind of like meta postmodern thing where it's looking at movies from like an ironic distance almost, right? Like how can we create the movie that brings in the most amount of people with these like winks to the audience throughout it?
Yeah, I would say it's
also
less
having that kind of art in his house and being like, this is very funny. This is all these things that I discovered from all over Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. We have Pope John Paul looking at his obituary, but just all of these things come together in my house. Just like
Also
all the
has-
people come together in the movie Independence Day.
I don't feel it's ironic at all, though. Is the only thing I would say, at least within the movie, even though his artwork collection, which we're hearing about, and classic after party material, I might add,
Yes.
is that I don't feel like it's irony poisoned at all. This movie.
No, not this movie. I'm saying that's like a kind of aesthetic. It's kind of like an aesthetic that
Sure.
you look at things from a distance, and you give yourself that distance to kind of consider them in like a postmodern fashion.
Yeah.
I feel like that.
Yeah, it's like this is the informed, late 90s, like informed world structure is the way it is. What if War of the Worlds, but like take it further down the line?
Well, the ironic thing at the core of this movie is that none of the problems that we see very quickly in the movie, such as Israel and Palestine, or such as ecological disaster, none of that stuff matters in the moment that aliens attack. I mean, that's kind of the
it's a
the
unified
overall,
thread.
Yeah, that they're kind of winking at you with by showing you all of these scenes of things that are happening in the world, and it's like, well, none of that matters now.
The aliens just came for the cobalt for their PS4s.
Hey, what about that part?
Would have been the PS1 at this point, right? If the PlayStation was even out at that point,
Nintendo
It was
64.
Coming out,
Nintendo
it came
64,
out right around that time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was it like Crazy Taxi? Was that the craziest the video game that came with that? I don't remember. But I think that it's, like it's. Think of Starship Troopers, right? And think about how that is like ultimately like a farce that people didn't realize was like a satire, let alone a farce.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this works because it's so straight ahead. But it's obviously informed from all of these things. Like you don't have like again, you mentioned like the whole like please do not shoot at the spaceship image where it's got like the gun and the space. Amazing, and hard relatable. You get like the people that are like apparently have watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind one too many times, and they're on top of that roof, like welcome the aliens, like take me with you and all that stuff. And it's like then they just get got immediately, which is hilarious.
And you get the ET references when they're
Arky
thirsting
stripper.
after the aliens, like
No, absolutely, and it's, it's. I think it all works because it's informed from all those films, but it's sort of recontextualized that. Although it is funny because there was a War of the Worlds style kerfuffle with the imagery in the advertisements being shown on like Mexican television, obviously absent of any context that it was a movie. That apparently some people was like, is this real? Like, what is that? What's happening? Oh. And again, think about like,
caramba, there's alien invasion.
But think about like how much times have changed in like 25 years or however long it's been, right? That like that would never happen now. Never. Yeah. You'd have to find like a tribe that has never seen like the internet for that to happen now. But in the late 90s, it's still like it's like the last vestige, which is hilarious because by the time you get to the early 2000s, no way. And that's 2005 that Spielberg dropped that War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, which wasn't that great.
Yeah, I think Blair Witch was the last time you can get away with it, and they did.
Yeah. And they did that one time. And the way that you can get away with making this movie one time with no sequels, to be explicitly clear. Because I don't think any other movie does this. I don't know.
You are right.
It's never had any sequels.
I like that point that I always think the best genre films or stories
apparently it was
build on all of the other genre stuff that have come before, right? So they use all the tropes and themes that sci-fi do, but the best add to it and take it up a notch. And this movie totally did. Like I was saying earlier, like when you hadn't seen an invasion like this before, and I think that was a game changer. And so that's what makes it, just like what do you call it? Just like a milestone in sci-fi genre.
Yeah, I mean, because oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, that's kind of a bit of the calling card that Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin were doing at that time, because they just did Stargate, which Stargate literally is probably the best Raiders knockoff that you can find.
Oh, yeah.
If you think of it that way. And it, because they took it into such a weird direction.
They did something different with it, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it works. But it really is. Like that opening scene is totally Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, and again, we have an entire generation that was informed with when aliens visiting of being Close Encounters and being ET, and those references are here, right? Yep. But then, by the same token, look, I Come in Peace was not a huge movie, Like it's like there were movies that had like, oh, what if aliens were really bad, but not like big blockbuster movies like this. And it's easy to discount that notability and importance by what came after it, especially because most of what came after it's pretty much lesser. I would say, including the War of the Worlds that is apparently can't stop bashing. But I'm sorry, that War of the Worlds is not that great. It's not good.
Yes, but Steven Spielberg, come on the show.
Coming up next week, Steven Spielberg.
I feel like the scene they kind of synthesized.
And Mars Attacks is too much farce. Like I enjoyed it, but it's too much. It's too much, man.
I feel like what synthesizes it in this movie, the scene like that pops into my head that most synthesizes like the like kind of satirical element that builds on stuff, but also like the straightforwardness of it is fucking Will Smith just punching the alien. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely, which is absolutely hilarious considering recent recent-ish.
And he like lights
activities.
up and he's like called that a third, like a close encounter of the third kind or something.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he has that fucking line and it's like the alien just got knocked out by his fucking like there's just so
there's
much.
an ET phone home reference to somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if this film had been made earlier or later, I don't think it would have been the same. I don't think it would have been as good because they're clearly, after watching those short features, it's like clear that they're building on the CGI, right? And that's kind of what like it was played out before it was totally successful, I feel like. And so if it had been done earlier, maybe the practical effects wouldn't have been as good without a little CGI, right? So it was kind of like a sweet spot technology wise.
Yeah.
I never thought of it until now, but
Just like we talked about it with this movie. You don't get what you got with 28 Days Later with the really aggressively, like purposefully, low budge early digital filmmaking that ostensibly revolutionized that entire genre.
Yeah.
And got a bunch of people ripping off the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Of which the worst thing is probably Blair Witch Project because there's so much shaky cam that happened that just people should be fined for that or incarcerated, one or the other. But like I think I think you're right. I think it has to have happened like right now. And again, you don't get that level, and we haven't even talked about like one of the best marketing campaigns in Psycho.
Yeah.
But again,
easily
for the three of us that were like old enough to like remember it, it was everywhere. Like in a way that I don't think you could even do it anymore.
I remember going to church and my pastor was actually speaking about Independence Day.
Wow. In what context?
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I wish I could have the exact context, but
when
no,
Jesus comes back, it's going to be our Independence Day.
15-mile wide.
But yeah, it was like I don't remember the exact details. I wish I could.
We all don't need Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum when Jesus comes back. Let me tell you now. Let me.
It was just one of those things that have come back to me. Rewatching the movie and talking about that nostalgia.
Before we change to the marketing campaign, the last thing I wanted to talk about really fast. Did you know that the last scene,
Goldblum 316.
The last scene with Randy Quaid, and they blow up the fucking the explosion that goes all the way up and then blows up the full ship.
Yeah, the Randy Quaid suicide bomber.
Yeah. So did you know that they just took the Empire State Building explosion and turned it upside down, and that's the same explosion when the ship blows up?
Really?
Yeah.
Respect.
Well, so
I
they
gotta
had a
see
different
split
ending
screen
at first.
of that.
They had a different ending at first, apparently, and the audience, the one thing the audience didn't like, the test audience, was the original ending. So they're like, well, why don't we just have him having they had to change everything to Randy Quaid being a fighter pilot the whole time. You know what I mean, from Vietnam or whatever. They added that storyline, and then they added that scene and took the fucking explosion of the Empire State Building, turned it upside down, and it's literally the same. Like it took until I watched it on the clip for me to realize that, but it literally just is the Empire State Building turned upside down that goes all the way up. Shit. Yeah.
I mean, I think that I don't think the Randy Quaid storyline is. I think it's the only one that doesn't make sense unless you have that scene. Like it's a one where it's like, okay, you can drop that. Why is this guy? I don't care about this guy. Like, what's his deal?
Drunken crop duster.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny and it's like, all right, but if there's not a reason why you get him after getting like his balls busted at the local diner for getting an anal probe by the aliens, I don't think it matters. There's no stakes, right? But then and then it's like, well, how are they going to get it? Oh yeah, the president's got it. Oh no, there's no missiles. Oh, and then it jams. Okay, so that makes sense. Like he's not just going to suicide bomb. A guy who has children is not going to suicide bomb. But then he makes that decision, and that's like, it's. I was about to say it's believable. In the context of the film, the decision makes sense. It isn't a character doing something to advance the plot.
Yeah. Now, did Randy Quaid know he was in a movie at the time? Because I don't.
Good point. That's a good question. He's like, "Where's Chevy Chase? Why am I here?"
Got my message, Randy Quaid.
Clark, I don't. Wait, this is the Empire State Building explosion, and then they flipped it upside down. And then you can see the peak of
Huh.
And that was like a last minute thing that they did.
Wow.
All right.
How did it originally end?
Let me see if I cut that part of it for this. I don't think I did.
Because it's hard to envision this ending like any other way.
It was like a similar.
I mean, it ends abruptly. It's just like, I told you I'd get you fireworks, kid.
Yeah. I mean, somebody gets a one-liner. Great. Okay, that's fine. Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid. I'm fine. I'm fine with like a stinger one.
Good news. Nobody's a virgin.
No,
anymore.
That's how Caddyshack ends, and it makes no sense in the context of the plot, but it's great.
it was another Randy Quaid thing. He either like drove in with the nuke and blew it up inside, and it was like too close for audiences, or like it was just a different Randy Quaid ending. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. We don't. I'm interested, but it doesn't need to derail the show. Interested.
Is there a National Lampoon's Alien Invasion? Because there should be. I'm thinking now.
Oh wow,
that sounds pretty sweet. And then they all could get laid at the end. And it would be totally appropriate.
I know National Lampoon Senior Trip. They all get laid at the end, except for the slut.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, you can actually watch the original ending. I wonder if they'll flag you for that.
I don't know. You want to roll the bones on that? Probably not. I don't feel lucky.
Yeah, I don't feel that lucky.
Just send us all
the
links.
I'm tenacious. I'm not lucky. Also, it's probably time for one-liners, right? I mean, it's running on the later side.
By the way, original ending: Russell was disallowed to fly by Colonel Mitchell, leaving him disappointed and frustrated. However, he arrives at the end of the battle flying his crop duster with a missile strapped to its wing and flying it into the City Destroyer's weapon. So I think they just felt like that jumped the shark.
That's too much. That's too much.
For this movie. Wow.
They don't have the manpower to be picky. They have more planes than they have pilots. Like, why would they be picky about it? Who cares? Who cares?
You can fly a plane.
Great.
There we go.
All right. You've played on flight simulators before? Great. Jump in the plane. Like they don't, they're to say they're not picky is a wild understatement for sure. Anyway, so are we ready? Are we ready to do it?
I love this part.
Okay, cool. So Letterboxd, of course, is a social media site for film lovers talk at with into each other about the movies they loved, the movies they didn't love, the movies they were weirdly horny for, the movies that they picked out the best cameo practical effects in, et cetera, et cetera. All of this, of course, is it's a bottom-up democracy, not just the Siskel's and the Eberts of the world having their say. Everybody gets to chime in. Best done succinctly. Succinctly, people, which is what we do here for this bit. This is the Letterboxd one-liners for Independence Day. Let's roll them. This is like 5 movies in one. And while 4 of them might be bad, the 5th might be the greatest movie ever made. I have no idea how to feel about this.
True.
That's good.
Good background, by the way, on this one.
Yeah.
25 years later, and there's still few things funnier than Harvey Fierstein watching a ball of alien hellfire approach him and saying, "Oh, crap."
And they keep. He's the one person you really see get exploded in this too. Like, I mean, without without being just like a random fighter pilot, you have no emotional attachment to.
Nothing makes me feel more patriotic than watching the White House get blown up by aliens.
Especially after these Supreme Court decisions. I'm just saying, like,
they went after the wrong building.
I'm just saying, I've been angry all week, and then watching the White House explode, just like, hell yeah, brother.
The Congress building gets it too, though, but it's less visible. But it does get got. Happy 4th, and thank you, Randy Quaid, for your service.
You know, these days Randy Quaid would not have given it, given his life for his country. He'd be like JFK Jr. is going to come back and he's going to make sure that that we destroy the aliens, and I'm just going to wait for that.
And here's a video of me banging my hot wife.
Randy Quaid's character in this would 100% be QAnon. There's no question in my mind. Like that's 100%. Welcome to Earth, punch.
I would have given him money to actually say that to Chris Rock. He's like, "Welcome to Earth."
That would have made that.
Hope the gravitational force ain't too much for you, Chris Rock.
Who needs the Avengers when you have Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, and Randy Quaid?
Yeah, this really is like an ultimate crossover situation. Like it's and Vivica Fox. Like who the fuck thought that? You know what I mean? Like she just did it. Like
I'm in favor of it. Whoever made that decision, thank you for that.
Yeah, and don't forget too. This was like Will Smith's big, big break as far as being an actor. Like, he was just the Fresh Prince before this, and he did maybe like 1 or 2 other films that nobody watched, and this was his big break as to become a movie star.
This is a story all about how aliens came down and turned the world out.
I'm doing my best eye work right now.
Nice.
It's very Kilroy.
Kilroy, yeah.
The best of this movie is Bill Pullman's "You got to be shitting me" facial expression when he finds out Area 51 is real.
Well, and it speaks to a real truth, I feel like, where like, our presidents are kind of just disposable, which isn't true with other countries, right? Where it's just like every 4 years we get like a different guy. And the alien's going to notice you. The alien's going to turn around and is going to notice you. But like we get a different guy every 4 years, so like they don't probably know all of the secrets, right? Like it's a weird deep state agent, like the fucking CIA spook that's in this that that would know about like Area 51 or something.
Did you know that the military originally was okay and going to back this movie until they mentioned the Area 51 stuff, and they're like, "Nope, we're out."
Yeah,
and they wouldn't change it.
I mean, it's sus.
I love when Will Smith holds his like 8-year-old stepson a bag of firecrackers and just says, "Be safe."
Nothing more 1996 than that.
Exactly.
No helicopter parents back then.
The shot of Boomer the dog leaping away from the explosion is one of the definitive images in cinematic history.
Wow. Boomer the dog made it, and if this movie would have been a lot darker if they had killed the dog, I think.
True. It's like Meg in that way. The dog lives.
It's how you know that like you're gonna be safe, right? Don't worry, this isn't gonna like make you feel too awkward. Like this is the blockbuster, people.
Yo, the Meg is a bad movie classic, I have to say.
Should have had Nick Cage in it.
Shit. Good thing aliens still use Windows 95 or Earth would have been fucked.
The humans the humans' one thing is that they have Apple. They have like an Apple operating system that you see them using the whole time.
Thank you, Steve Jobs, for your service.
That's a very successful merchandise tie-in, if you ask me. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Independence Day. Please follow President Pullman over there, who is the host of your show, Forrest Miller, Movie Night Extravaganza. He's representing the show. He's getting the alien treatment and the Letterboxd treatment. I am Conan Neutron. Could have been at a barbecue. I'm all over that biz. Working right along, highbrow, midbrow, populist fare. I'm killing it on my Criterion Challenge, so follow me along for that if you feel so inclined. Frankly, I definitely am going to finish this year. Feeling good about that. J. Andrew World, blowing of a model. Blowing of a model.
Wow.
Hey, he said
Somebody's got to do
the
it.
video clip. I had to.
Is all over Letterboxd, watching the weirdest stuff. So you don't have to, or maybe so you can. It is not for me to judge. I'm only calling balls and strikes, like the Supreme Court obviously is. Too soon? Letterhack, Matt Strackbein is not on Letterboxd I'm aware of, but after all of these the subtle peer pressures may eventually do so. Who knows?
I've been thinking about it.
Exactly. So not on there. Don't bother looking. But Andrew World, blowing of a model. That's what you went with, huh? Okay. All right.
I had something else before, but I'm just I couldn't help it after the guy said that of a blowing of a model, and I'm just like,
my King Ghidorah
cool.
lost a head, so I got to put this back on during the visual antics that nobody probably saw. So there you go. I got the match set, Godzilla and Ghidorah.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Andrew World, take us away with plugs, please.
All right, you're watching us on YouTube right now. Please do those YouTube things like comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And the big ask, of course, is to watch the video to the end. That lets you hear a great Conan Neutron song that our guest absolutely loves. And that helps other movie fans find our content.
Quaid-anon!
Yes. Okay.
Solid.
Randy Quaid's coming back.
if
He's
you're
coming
watching us-
back. He's gonna take on the deep sea. He's gonna come back.
Exactly. He's been blogging his queue for a while.
No, Randy Quaid saying Clark's gonna come back.
If you're over on Twitch, please do the Twitch stuff. Throw us a sub. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free, and that actually gives us money. So please do that if you're able to. We greatly appreciate that.
We greatly appreciate money. Thank you.
Yes, yes. We are on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you're on either of those, any of those three, follow us there. Sometimes we have antics there. So find us, follow us, and see the antics.
I want to say also, I need to say this right now. 2 years this week of movie night extravaganza.
Yeah.
It's two beautiful years of doing this show with you fellas, and it's been a marvelous time.
And almost all of them have been good.
Some of them have been good.
I think one of them's good.
This one was good.
yeah.
Okay, so Stevie made the connection on Quaid. All right, well, there you go. Proper attribution. That's what this show's all about.
Yes.
No, 2 years. 2 years, and honestly, consistent. I'll say.
Yeah. Getting better though. 2 years
definitely.
consistent, but getting better all the time.
Can't get much worse. Beatles fans, anyone?
Started off kind of a mess, but we're here now. We're here now,
Exactly.
and I'm happy about it.
We in here.
Yes. But
Let's get this
if
bread.
if you can also help us out, we have a Patreon, and the Patreon, it helps us do things like put the show on, but also it allows you.
There's nothing you said that is incorrect, but that's just a funny way to put it. Sorry.
Are you fellas up for an after party tonight? 4th of July after party.
Oh, sure. Spoil what I was going to say. I was going to say that you have access to after parties forever.
I can go with after party, sure.
Party
Party
forever,
forever,
especially
after
on the 4th
party
of July.
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody has a barbecue to get to.
It's Sergeant Quaid's Lonely Probe Club Band.
Wow.
Dude, I don't think that they.
That's what we should call the after party.
I don't think that they scripted anything with Randy Quaid. I think
You think it's just him just going out the dome?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I asked earlier if he was acting. Did he know he was in a movie?
Randy Quaid fucking stumbles in mad drunk, and they're like, "You've been probed," and he's like, yeah. "Oh, I have a story about getting probed," and they're like, "Great, on air in 5."
Yeah,
you've been probed with Randy Quaid. That would have been his show. Yeah,
That's why they call me Crop Duster.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of crop dusting, no, there is no transition from that.
No, sure isn't.
I'm sorry.
Anyways, Conan Neutron over here has a great show called Protonic Reversal. You might have heard of it. There's a clue if you've been paying attention to what the show looks like.
The background? Is that
Yes.
is that the clue? Okay.
Yeah, that is the clue.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
It's subtle. It's subtle, right?
Yeah, it's pretty subtle.
But yeah, I know you just had a special re-air episode because
Rick
a friend
Froberg.
of yours. Yes.
Well, not just a friend of mine. Like honestly, I haven't seen. So Rick Froberg just passed away from Drive Like Jehu, Hot Snakes, Obits. I don't know about y'all's world. I have a lot more music people. I haven't seen this many people like bummed out over somebody passing since David Bowie. Frankly, like it's a huge deal.
No, like I'm seeing people like in the political world talking about it. So
yeah. And I reposted the episode I did with him 2 years ago with some remembrances on there. I have a new episode this week. Jay Ryan and Rick Peltier from Six Finger Satellite, which is awesome for people that are fans of that band. They have pretty mysterious. Don't do this kind of stuff often. And there's a reissue of Pigeon is the Most Popular Bird that is a pretty big deal in Sub Pop. So Sub Pop, if you've heard of it.
Yeah.
And
well, even I've heard of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's be honest. Like Sub Pop is a good litmus test for a band. Like if they're on Sub Pop, you probably should check them out.
Just probably should at least give it a listen. Yeah. So that's gonna be this week. Looking forward to that. Really, I've been a huge Six Finger Satellite fan for many years, so it means a lot to me. They coming on the show, so it should be a good one. Massive Cocaine Seizure. Stevie knows what's up. That's like I think the first EP, if I remember correctly.
All right, Stevie. And of course, if you want to get some EPs and other music, like full-length albums too, you can go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com.
And the name of the band is Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, which you don't often say. And for a band name that's a sentence long, we need to be saying it more and more, people.
Correct.
Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends.
I should do that, yes.
But yeah, you're right. You can get that music. There's a new record in September. Can't quite. I'm so close to being able to talk about it. You know what? I'll talk about it next week on Interstellar. That's it. How's that for a stinger?
Ooh,
all right.
There we go.
Also, we have some live shows coming up. Playing with Poster Children, July 15th at X-Ray Arcade in Cudahy, Wisconsin. We're playing Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio, 21st and 22nd, and Louisville, Kentucky, 23rd, Madison, Wisconsin on the 29th. I have fall dates too, but again, can't say anything yet. So, and maybe some late August dates. But yeah, if you follow neutronfriends.bandcamp.com, we're on Songkick, bands in town and stuff. You don't have to wait for it to extemporaneously be brought up on this show. Which is not the best way to get live dates.
Correct.
I included Six for Satellite, a workout mixtape I made when I was 14. Nice. That's absolutely. There we go. Sergeant Quaid's Lonely Probe Club Plan.
Yeah, that was actually last week this picture was taken.
This is actually it says a webcam at his house.
No, the only difference between what he looked like, even in the 90s and what he looks like now is he's developed like the full prepper beard now. Like I've seen his his Twitter output where he goes full QAnon. He has like the full fucking prepper beard.
I believe it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to say Kristina's not here, but if you can go to Coffee, KOFI .com.
Go to coffee.net.
Kristina's really struggling. Look what she looks like now.
She'll be buy her a coffee, y'all. She's out there dog sitting. She can't be with us. She's with us in spirit, but the aliens have taken her body. So
they have excellent taste.
She shall be missed. If you are
they're like this one's way better than the last one, Randy Quaid.
If it's between Randy Quaid and Kristina Oakes, I'm definitely going with Kristina.
If you're in the Northeast and you can, July 13th, which is a Thursday, one of my favorite bands is playing, and afterwards I'm gonna whoever's there, we're all gonna go out and celebrate my birthday. Which my birthday is the following day on the 14th. So if you are able to come to Northampton, come see the Fawns live for free. It's
or you will get this treatment.
Yes. So hear that, KT?
Terrible.
Coming for you. No,
You're calling out guests by name. Amazing. Yeah, that's my expression. Exactly. It's like, wow. Good Lord.
No,
we are the show that individually calls out its viewers to come to social events.
This is Andy heading off to his birthday right here. I still don't know what the fuck this is from or why I had this.
I mean,
damn it!
It came from the.
Do some of these.
Wow.
My mind work isn't what it used to be.
Episode is where it came from.
Oh yeah,
but, like, I don't know where you got it from before that.
Wait, hold on. Let's see. There's another good one.
All right, fine.
Yes.
So.
2 years of this, baby.
2 years of this.
Well, we do a weekly show. Each one of those is a different week, right? Like,
there you go. Everyone's a different universe.
Exactly.
Wow. Looks like Freddie Mercury somehow, right?
What? The horse? The centaur?
The guy,
I guess so. Yeah, a little bit.
I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike.
Because I can't, because I'm a horse.
Audience is feeling like this right now. All right, it's enough. Wrap it up.
Yeah.
Leaning. Yo, they're actually doing a live. They're doing a live screening of Night of the Hunter in Kingston at the
really.
In August. They're doing like a horror movie month or something.
Wow.
I might go see that.
Nice.
So Matt, you have.
And then when you leave the theater, it's going to look like this. Oh, never mind. I can't do it.
When I leave the theater, hopefully it looks like this. Socialism.
I was gonna say, Matt, you have a podcast that apparently only airs on Wednesdays and not opposite of Ben's show on Mondays, where you can see me.
Every Monday night, 9:30 p.m. at youtube.com/the Letterhack. Also on Wednesdays now. I've been interviewing people like so much that I've moved it to sometimes twice a week. I had Olaimi O'Learn a couple of weeks ago. I had Jeff Waldorf yesterday. I have DJ Exclusive from the Benjamin P. Dixon Show, Like It or Not, tomorrow. Next week on Monday, John Idarola, and on and on and on. I'm booked through August, where I draw my guests while interviewing them. It's very fun. We have a good time. It's been going very well. I'm really getting into it. I ask questions, and I'm starting to learn from the answers, and then ask the same questions a little bit different to the next guest, get that feedback, and then revise. And now I'm going to have shows that focus on certain topics based on these questions and answers. So it's not random. It's all very pointed. And yeah, it's a good time.
I think one question you should ask, you should look your guests in the eyes. And this should be like early on. You should ask, like, how do you think you're going to die?
Oh,
that's
right at the top,
yeah.
Right?
I just feel like that gets into interesting places because, if you're like a hypochondriac, you have that formulated in your head.
Yeah.
If you're not, you're like, hey, I have something that I forgot to do. I'm gonna get off this.
I'll say, because I know you've thought about it, right? Everyone thinks about it. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna ask that.
I would. If I had a show where I was, I would just right off the bat be like, how do you think you're gonna die?
But all these drawings are going to be a part of a group image. And so I'm doing them individually so I can move them around. But also if anyone gets canceled, I can drop them off. They don't have to be a part of it. Because I've done big portraits before where it was like, this one guy shouldn't be there now. I don't know what to do.
I should not have made Louis C.K. the center of this image.
You know what I mean, though? That can happen. So it's like, I can't erase and start over. So anyway, it's modular. So yeah, it's going to be one group image. It's coming.
Yeah,
along.
I guess if you got a huge group of people, like there is a higher likelihood that you might not want someone to be on there.
Yeah, well, you can always easily turn Louis C.K.
or
into
5. Yeah. No. Yeah.
I honestly, I say this with peace and love in my heart. I don't keep up because I largely don't care, but every once in a while I do.
Yeah, it was like the day after I finished. Or like a couple of days after I finished, somebody was out, and I was like, "Oh man,
could you got canceled earlier?"
Yeah, like by like a few hours.
How dare you? That's like when a band drops off right after the poster's printed. Like,
Yep.
Not many cancellations permanently like end up impacting anything.
It's a different kind of cancellation, though.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Like so I feel like at some point people come back. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the likelihood of somebody coming. Well, I don't know. Yeah,
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
Wait,
Tune into the after party to find out. Are we done yet?
Yeah, we're yeah. So Matt, you got some final thoughts for us here.
Yeah, I just once again I really appreciate a big, huge summer blockbuster movie that you go into. Like, you know, these days you're so disappointed with movies for whatever reason. When you come out, you're like, well, now they got my box office ticked off, and they can say this many people went to see the movie, it must be a hit. They never poll you coming out, you know, so you don't really know. But I think with a movie like this, I was so happy when I left the theater, and the other, like, there was like 6 or 7 of us, and we were all like just so happy about it. It was so good. It totally delivered. Again, it's a genre movie that builds on everything that's come before in that genre and then takes it up a notch. And
I like that you could be like disappointed. You could be like, I wish they pulled us on the way out. You'd be happy.
I was like, I never
You know
heard of
what I
exit
mean.
polling at movies, but sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, there was that. You can find it online. There's a Evil Dead 2 commercial that aired on television where they actually did poll people, and they were all saying it was the scariest movie they've ever seen. And I'm just like, Evil Dead 2, really?
Really?
Yeah, two.
But see, that's my
Bruce Campbell.
kind of. But my point is that they shouldn't rely on box office. That's all, because it's kind of empty, right? But anyway, this one was badass. I love this movie. I had such a good time with it, and yeah, I do like that it pops up on TV a lot, because you can watch like 2 minutes of it, 3 minutes of it, and feel like you watch it 40 times or whatever you were saying earlier. So yeah, anyway. Really good, and thanks for having me on. I really do appreciate
always
coming
a
back
pleasure,
on.
man.
Yeah, you guys are fun.
Conan, got some final thoughts.
Yeah. A fantastic, big budget, big blockbuster that manages to actually be deeply entertaining as well. Is it ridiculous? Yeah, you bet. Is it over the top? Sure. Do I love it? I do. And that is such a rare beast that it's worth celebrating in of itself. And there's a lot of things that I adore about it, not the least of which is a heavy use of practical effects and models over CGI. Can't stop saying it, won't stop saying it. This is the way if you want your movie to not look immediately dated, frankly. And I think Independence Day is better than most movies it gets lumped in with by a pretty large margin.
Yeah. Andy?
I think Roland Emmerich at this point in time is certainly an overlooked. I don't know, genius is going a little too hard, but like, you know, certainly like he had this great run of films. He had you know, his U.S. Hollywood debut, Universal Soldier, which you know, it's B movie schlock, but somehow it's elevated above B movie schlock. Then you know, followed up with Stargate, and then this, you know, making like this perfect trilogy of well-made films. And has the stuff he's done after this, you know, equaled as good as what that was? No. But you know, like White House Down, fun movie to watch. It's not good, but I mean, you enjoy it yourself. Watch, you know, it's entertaining. You know, it doesn't.
White House is down again.
And but it's entertaining. But this one actually has like more depth to it than say White House Down has. So, you know, this is truly like,
I thought you were going to use the time to talk more about Universal Soldier rather than White House Down, but okay. I mean, it's like your one time where you're on topic talking about it, but
yeah, no, okay, fine. You know, Universal Soldier, commies, they're everywhere. No, yeah.
Yeah, no, I was because we got to jump to the after party. So I was just gonna say I just wanted to give you guys a little speech here and say, we will not go gently into that good night. We will not give up without a